Also known as ice dragons or glacial worms, a lot of adventurers dismiss the white ones as being the weakest of their kind. But they're downright feral, and that's what makes them so dangerous. They don't care for scheming, they can't be bought or sold or negotiated with. They're hunters through and through, and they hold a grudge longer than a dwarf. Traverse the frozen wastes with care, or you'll become their next meal.
The snowstorms of my territory come, making perfect camouflage for me to stalk on the ground or take to the wing. Scales of white, muddled blue and ash gray make me disappear within them. The howling winds muffle my wing beats and footsteps, kicking up the scent of prey. I smell and taste it, learning all I can about my prey. Elk. Wounded, bleeding, fresh, and to the east, less than a mile from my lair. Changing my course to head for this food. Survival is all about food and territory. I must remember to scour my territory just in case a rival has appeared during my dragon sleep. But there is no scent of other dragons. This brings me comfort, for there are no other dragon species, but also disappointment. It means there are no female white dragons either. Disappointment quickly turns into hunger as I land a distance from my soon-to-be meal and sniff again. It's closer, still bleeding, but there's a new scent. I smell iron and smoke. I move closer to the scent until I can see the elk. The minute it sees me, it panics and tries to run, but it can't. It's tied to the ground by a stake and rope. An easy kill. My favorite. I charge forward, roaring as I go. The terrified elk nearly breaks its legs trying to get away. But in a flash, my paw slams it down onto the ground, and my jaws wrench its head from its body. I hiss out my breath weapon onto my prey, coating it in frost and freezing it solid. Much better. I quickly devour the meal, crunching away, not wanting to risk a challenger. Frost wolves, yetis, snowy owlbears, all of them very tasty. I sniff the air again. That scent of iron and smoke lingers harder nearby. A few steps away, I find it. The remnants of a camp. Frost giants? No. The tent is far too small, and frost giants don't build fires. I remember this scent. Humanoids. I look around, but do not see any. I dig in the snow and find no treasure or buried bodies. The storms covered their tracks as it would mine. I sniff the air once more, following the scent of iron and humanoid. The scent travels back towards the west, towards my glacial lair. I let out a frustrated roar and run along the snowy paths till my powerful wings take me aloft, tearing through the skies until I land outside my lair with a boom, followed by a thunderous roar. The only sound that comes back is my own bellowing echo. I sniff the air. I smell myself. I smell my treasure. I smell old blood, and I smell humanoids. I stalk forward into the frozen caverns, the tunnels of ice that make up my lair. My claws are serrated ice picks, keeping me sure of foot. Icy blue eyes stare back at me from the walls and ceiling of my home, and all its gifts glitter like stars. My treasure. My hoard. White dragons do not count our hoard, but we always remember. We never forget. I let out a low growl as I continue my hunt, and my mind is pleased that all the treasures I remember remain in their frozen display cases. I stop to admire some of them, and admire my own face. The reflective surface of the ice makes both look far larger, and that's pleasing to me. Then I see something moving in the reflective mirror of the ice. Something that's not me. I whirl around, the scent of humans and iron filling my nostrils again, and I see 5 creatures. An elf, a tiefling, a dwarf, and 2 humans, each of them carrying loads of treasure. I'm filled with rage and I charge, roaring and bellowing at the top of my lungs. One of the humans, wearing a purple robe, holds out its hands with fingers splayed out. It was saying something in an almost demanding tone, but I wasn't listening. I was focused solely on what I wanted in that moment. To tear these trespassing thieves apart and devour them. In a flash, my jaws rip the robed human's torso from her waist, scattering them both in different directions by dozens of yards. Instinct and fury carry me forward. I breathe deep, and from my maw is unleashed a torrent of icy shards and frost so terrible it could freeze flesh as solid as stone and turn steel brittle. The elf managed to dodge nimbly out of the way. The dwarf is still standing, but looks weary, flecks of ice in its beard. The tiefling is frozen solid. I'm about to bite at the dwarf when I feel a stinging pain in the back of my legs and lash out reflexively with my tail. I hit something hard and metal. I whirl around and see the second human. It is covered in metal armor and wielding something that catches my eye. A silver sword polished to a razor's edge and humming with warm magic. I can see both our reflections in that blade. I want it. I will have it, and I will kill this human for it. I do not say these words. A simple roar gets my point across. The elf and the dwarf have slipped, and my treasure they stole from me is scattering about. In that moment, I ignore the human and charge at those 2, claws slashing furiously and raking across the dwarf's belly. Before I can pick the dwarf up in my jaws and devour him, I feel a sharp, stinging pain in my left eye, and I can't see anything out of it. I scratch away the shaft of an arrow. That elf shot me in the eye. I roar with outrage as I hear them escaping on foot, escaping with my treasure. I shake my head, but I'm blind in one of my eyes. I breathe in and unleash a torrent of ice and frost in their direction. I know the sound flesh makes when it freezes into crystal, and I do not hear that sound. What vision I do have sees the human and the elf run towards a glowing spot on the ground. It lights up brightly and then they vanish, like they were never even there. I can no longer smell their scent, and all I can hear are my own furious bellows. It has been 20 years since that day, but I have not forgotten. A white dragon does not forget. Ever since that day, I have been searching for them. I search for their scent, the gleam of their sword. I venture outside my own territory for the first time in 2 centuries. My weariness of other dragons, belayed by the rage I feel at being wounded. I will keep searching for them even if it takes me another 100 years. But I don't have to wait long. Finally, I've caught their scent. I look down and see that human and the elf, with a dozen others all in armor. My eyes narrow as I spear down through the skies at them. I feel the sting of the elf's arrows along with a dozen others, but with a single breath, most of those others become icy corpses. The human with the silver sword shouts words at me. I don't bother listening, but I know a challenge when I hear one. I answer his challenge with a roar. This roar is my answer, my declaration. I accept your challenge, but every scar, every scrap of copper you stole from me, every drop of blood you made me shed is a slight that you will answer for! The blizzard continues to rage outside my lair as I limp into it. Warm blood dripping down my front legs and mouth, slowly cooling. I prop up a silver sword with one claw near the place where I sleep, and freeze it there in a polished display of ice, alongside the human that sought to steal from me, and the elf that took my eye. The sensation of satisfaction greater than that of a good meal enters my breast as I admire the 2 latest additions to my wall of frozen trophies.
Thank you for watching. On this channel, I put together narrative D&D lore videos. A special thank you to my patrons who help keep the channel going and bringing more content to you. You can become a patron too and see all of my videos early and totally ad-free, as well as vote on next video topics. Also be sure to like the video, subscribe, leave a comment, and check out these other videos. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers!